What's up, guys? Joe Chavarria here. Today we're going to talk about, can an account that's included in bankruptcy report a balance on the credit report? So we'll unpack that plus a lot more. Today's new episode of the Joe Credit Show. So before I begin, little disclaimer, everything I'm going to go over, I'm going to just kind of read off a court case. I'm not giving any legal advice. I'm not an attorney. This is purely just information that I'm just kind of translating, interpreting to what does this mean for the average consumer, so you kind of know exactly what to do with this information. Because a lot of these court cases, a lot of these credit cases that those credit scenarios that go to court, a lot of these have ramifications, and these court cases are, once they're filed and finalized and the judge rules in one way or the other, they have some ramifications to the average consumer. But of course, a lot of people are not aware of it, so I want to make sure you're aware of it. So let's get started. So again, if you file bankruptcy before and the account is discharged in bankruptcy, meaning that you no longer owe the debt, then can that same company report a balance? So this has to do, this sheds a lot of light on this subject. And the case involves Ewert versus FD Holdings LLC, which they do business as Factual Data. So Factual Data is one of the credit reporting agencies that are out there. The hidden ones people don't know about. People know Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. Those are the three main credit reporting agencies, but there's some little ones or mini ones or hidden ones that are also credit reporting agencies, but you don't really hear a lot about them. So Factual Data is one of them. So the plaintiff in this scenario, which is Lance Ewert. So Lance filed bankruptcy in 2017. And Lance had also included his Chase credit card in the bankruptcy, and it was discharged, meaning the obligation to repay that debt he was alleviated from having to do that. So the account is discharged. Lance doesn't have to pay it. His bankruptcy took care of that. And so Lance had actually brought up a Fair Credit Reporting Act lawsuit against Factual Data for reporting that the Chase card looked like it was reporting that it was still due and it was still owing. And the reason behind that, the reason behind that is because the account still had a balance. So on his credit report, the Chase card did have the comments which would say the account was included in bankruptcy. I do quotations because it's a comment. It's in the remarks section of the account. It says account included in bankruptcy. And there still was a balance. There was a $2,000 balance, $2,066 to be exact, as opposed to a zero balance. So the reason why this suit came up and the basis for the argument was because Lance's position on this is if the account is discharged in bankruptcy, I don't have the responsibility to pay it. Shouldn't it be zero? Why is there still a balance? So, and I see his point on that. It's a good argument. And there's a really fine line there. So the Fair Credit Reporting Act has to do with a lot of accuracy in reporting, maximum possible accuracy, data integrity, that kind of thing. And so the question when you bring up an FCRA lawsuit is this account violating any of the statutes within the Fair Credit Reporting Act? Meaning that is it inaccurate? Is it misreported? What's the scenario there to consider that this account actually violated the Fair Credit Reporting Act? And so the court had to cite another court case to determine, really two of them, but one of them that they cited, which is a good one, to determine where to go with this. The court case was Vought versus Dynamic Recovery Services. Dynamic Recovery Services, I'm sure, is a debt collector. Sounds like one. And so in this case, in the case of Vought versus Dynamic, the account had a non-zero balance that had reported, and the account was included in bankruptcy. And the court had decided in that case that a non-zero balance in itself is not inaccurate. And the reason why it's not inaccurate is because a bankruptcy discharge eliminates personal responsibility. Although it does do that, it does eliminate personal responsibility of the debt. It doesn't eliminate the debt itself, right? The debt is still technically owed, it's still out there, but the consumer is not really responsible for it because they had protection under bankruptcy. And so, my opinion on this is a tough one, because a good argument, probably if I was Lance's attorney in this scenario, I would say, okay, well, if my client does not owe the debt, but I get it, the debt is still owed. It was accrued. The interest and principal balance accrued to a certain point. Fees were tacked on. There's a debt here that's owed. My client couldn't pay it. I get it. Stuff happens to people. But however, he does not owe it. He had protection under bankruptcy. He doesn't owe it anymore, according to, this reason why you file bankruptcy. Bankruptcy, just to protect you and your assets and from all the liability and all that's out there, lawsuits and things like that, your wages and things like that. And so, client fell in hard times, I'm sure, and just couldn't keep up with it. And I'm an advocate, sure, pay back everything you owe, but sometimes for some folks, that's easier said than done. There's really no way out, and bankruptcy is kind of like the only way that they see, especially if you're in a state that is not so debtor friendly. They're more creditor friendly. You want to make sure your wages are protected and you're able to earn a living, put food on the table. So sometimes bankruptcy is the only option. So in the case where someone files bankruptcy, I get it. He's alleviated from the responsibility, but on his credit report, they're still reporting the balance. So it does say account included in bankruptcy. It does say that. But if there's still a balance, it does look like he still owes it. And if he personally does not owe it, then why have it on the credit report at all? Why not just have those records go back to Chase internally, and let Chase internal records have that? So, if you ever were to do business with Chase again, then they would have the say, well, you still owe us money from the bankruptcy, this debt was owed. And maybe they won't say that because they probably don't want to get in trouble, but they can make a decision, well, we're just not going to do business with you, at this point in this time, right? Keep it an internal record as opposed to a credit reporting record, to where any individual or any lender that's out there that's looking at his credit, they may misconstrue that as he still has a Chase credit card balance, right? They may see it as the bankruptcy notation. Maybe that was incorrect. Maybe that could be the issue as opposed to the balance, right? Or, vice versa. So if you file bankruptcy, you don't have personal responsibility to that debt anymore. Why is it on the credit report? That's my position. That's kind of my argument. I don't know how that would hold up in court, but that's kind of the position that I would take. So again, under the FCRA, will this survive a motion to dismiss? In terms of, is this account inaccurate? Right? Under the FCRA, it has to meet that standard. Is this account inaccurate? So the court says no. The account's not inaccurate. But we want to also look at, what does Metro 2 say? So Metro 2 is essentially the language that credit reporting agencies and creditors use to communicate to one another. It's how they report data. It's in a certain language called Metro 2. So there's a Metro 2 manual. So let's see what Metro 2 says. So Metro 2, which is the second version of Metro, there's Metro and there's Metro 2. Metro 2 is now the version in the language that creditors are required to report in, and credit bureaus are required to communicate back. So Metro 2 is the language as of today. So the Metro 2 manual, it does lay out exactly how a creditor is to report that account that is discharged in bankruptcy. It does specify exactly how it should be reported. So an account that's discharged in bankruptcy must have a couple things. So number one, it needs to have a CII, the right CII, which is the consumer info indicator, which is kind of like that little, if you ever see a status or a remark like account in dispute, or in this case, account included in bankruptcy, that remark on Metro 2 side, that is a consumer info indicator, basically a code that's put in there to kind of like a base segment code to say overall this account is either in dispute or this account is included in bankruptcy. So when a consumer files bankruptcy, there has to be one of these indicators. It's got to be the letter E, an F, a G, or an H, which would trigger that account is discharged in bankruptcy status. Okay, that is a requirement. According to Metro 2, that account included in bankruptcy code has to be on that account if it was in fact included in bankruptcy. Number two, the balance, whatever the amount is, that balance amount must be reported at the time of status. Okay, so if the consumer filed bankruptcy and the account was discharged at bankruptcy, at that time that it was discharged in bankruptcy, what was the balance, right? So in that case where Lance sued Factual Data, Chase Card had that balance that was reported that probably was correct. That's why the account was not deemed inaccurate. That was the balance at the time of the discharge. Okay, so the way Metro 2 specifies it, which they're not going to put something in there that's going to get the creditors in trouble or open to a lawsuit. They're going to obviously do, hey, this is what the law says, or this is what the FCRA says. So you can report a balance. You can report a zero balance. You can report the balance. Just don't report more than what is owed. That's for sure. That'll get you in trouble. But technically, you can report a balance. So reporting a balance is in itself not inaccurate. It is fine to do. And the third thing is, once the status code has been put on that the account was included in bankruptcy, balance last reported was there, there can no longer be any continual reporting after that, right? Metro 2 is pretty specific on there's to be no more updated information each month, no more continual reporting. It needs to be kind of just stagnant information, right? It's just going to just be there in its format, no more updating, no more reporting after that. So that's the requirement under Metro 2. And so with that information, again, this is what the Metro 2 manual says. This is their internal rule book where Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, the credit reporting agencies got together and said, okay, creditors, you guys are required to follow this. This will keep you out of trouble. This is exactly how to report. This is going to be the requirement. This satisfies what Congress wants of us. We're all, in good standing with this. This is the manual. Follow this manual. So that's what the Metro 2 requirement is for reporting an account included in bankruptcy, or discharge in bankruptcy, I should say. And so that's really what I wanted to cover today. Again, my topic was, can an account report a balance that's included in bankruptcy? So what do you do with this information? So if you are watching this and you're someone who has filed bankruptcy in the past, I would highly, highly, highly recommend that you pull a credit report on yourself. You can go to annualcreditreport.com, get a credit report for free, once per year normally, but lately it's been once per week for free due to the pandemic. And the CARES Act that was passed last year in 2020, you can get your credit report for free once per week from annualcreditreport.com. If that has expired where you're watching this, it's generally for free once per year. And so pull a report from each reporting agency, Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, and look at all the accounts that were included in your bankruptcy. Number one, check to see if it has that status on there. Does it say account included in bankruptcy? If it doesn't, that would violate the Fair Credit Reporting Act and that violate the Metro 2 rulebook. Number two, see if there's a balance on there. If there is a balance, again, that's not inaccurate in itself, but if there is a balance, what is the balance, right? What was the balance that was at the point where bankruptcy was discharged? Is that the right balance? And number three, look at the last reported dates. Okay, if the account was discharged and last reported, let's say 2 years ago, but the last reported date shows that it's still being updated or still reporting going on, then that'd be a big no-no, right? That you'd want to dispute that. So if you find anything wrong with any of these three areas, or even all three of these areas, the next thing you want to do is you want to write a letter to whatever bureau that account reports to, or even if it's all three, write a letter, clear as day, specifying, hey, this account, ABC creditor, is inaccurate, even according to your standard under Metro 2, because X, Y, and Z, right? List the reasons why balance, is inaccurate, or the status is incorrect, or there is no status, or also if the account is continuing to report, and according to your own manual, that's not supposed to be. So, demand deletion based on those premises. So, if you're watching this and again, you filed bankruptcy before the past and the account was, your bankruptcy was discharged, these accounts were discharged, you definitely want to pull your report on yourself and go through with a fine-tooth comb and see what accounts you can probably get removed due to them not following the rules on one of those three areas. So that's my time today. I hope you enjoy this content. If you want to learn more about credit scoring, get some free guides and tips on how to boost your own credit, go to my website, go to joechavarria.com/links for some helpful resources. It'll be in the description or in my bio if you want to check that out. Also, let me know what you think in the comment section. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section. Happy to take all the questions you guys have. And if you like this video, do me a favor, give me a thumbs up. Let me know your thoughts on it. Greatly would appreciate that. Other than that, I am Joe Chavarria. This has been another episode of the Joe Credit Show. I'll see you next time. Take care, guys.